General Hospital spoilers for Friday the 19th contain quite a few interesting details. Let us start with Britt and Rocco, because this is where the heartbreak truly anchors itself in the most visceral way possible. Britt has been dragging this poor boy through a living nightmare, constantly looking over her shoulder, trying to stay one step ahead of the relentless people hunting them down. In a desperate, heartbreaking bid to offer him a sliver of normalcy amidst the chaos, she hands him a tablet to check the local news back home. Think about the deep psychology behind that specific action. It is a classic, desperate misdirection. She wants Rocco to look at a bright screen, to read about everyday mundane things happening in their hometown, so he does not look at her face and see the sheer, unadulterated terror in her eyes. She is trying with every fiber of her being to be his invincible shield, but the tragic irony of the situation is that the shield is fundamentally broken from the inside out. Her body is failing her while she tries to be his fortress. When Britt suddenly collapses, that fragile illusion of control shatters into a million jagged pieces. This is not just a standard medical emergency. It is the total catastrophic destruction of their safety net. Rocco is suddenly thrust from the role of a protected, innocent child into the role of a desperate, terrified savior. The sheer panic he must feel in that exact moment is unimaginable. He is completely isolated, terrified, and the one adult who was supposed to navigate them through this hell is now lying unconscious on the floor. The vulnerability here is palpable and suffocating. Every single second she remains on the ground is a second their remote location risks being exposed to the monsters hunting them. And who does Rocco instinctively reach out to in his darkest, most terrifying moment? He scrambles to make a frantic phone call for help, and all signs point to him dialing the man he believes is Nathan. This is where the storyline gets incredibly dark and twisted. Rocco thinks he is calling a hero, a reliable protector, a trusted family member who will drop absolutely everything to save them from the brink of death. But we know he is actually calling Cassius a dangerous imposter who is deeply entangled in the very web of deceit that is suffocating this entire town. The boy is reaching out for a vital lifeline, completely unaware that the person on the other end of the phone is a ghost wearing a stolen face. It is a chilling, horrifying reminder of how deeply these deceptions run and how they inevitably endanger the most innocent among us. Meanwhile, Dante is playing his own dangerous, high-stakes game of pretend back home. We have always known Dante to be the ultimate moral compass, the dedicated detective who stands firmly and proudly on the side of the law. But right now, he is actively and intentionally obstructing justice. When Joe starts putting the puzzle pieces together, accurately suspecting that Jens has a highly placed inside man facilitating his chaos, Dante is forced to play completely dumb. He knows exactly how Ross is connected to Jens. He holds the very missing puzzle piece that could blow this entire complex investigation wide open, yet he consciously chooses to bury it deep. He is looking his respected colleague dead in the eye and lying by omission, all to protect a secret that is rapidly turning incredibly toxic. What makes Dante's current situation even more compelling and tragically beautiful is how he perfectly contrasts this professional deception with his intimate personal life. He is leaning heavily on Elizabeth right now, using her as a vital confidant and a warm, safe harbor amidst the raging storm outside. Their bond is undeniably growing stronger by the day, deeply rooted in years of shared trauma, mutual understanding, and a quiet, unspoken respect. But as viewers, you have to wonder about the fragile foundation of this growing intimacy. Dante is actively seeking deep emotional comfort from Elizabeth while simultaneously carrying a radioactive secret that could easily blow back on everyone he loves, including her. He is building a beautiful, peaceful sanctuary on top of an active landmine. It is a deeply human, recognizable flaw wanting a safe place to rest your weary head while knowing you are the very person tracking mud and extreme danger straight into the house. The irony is thick enough to cut with a heavy knife. Dante is supposed to be the one aggressively uncovering the truth, yet he has willingly become a primary gatekeeper for the lies. By intentionally keeping Joe in the dark about Ross, Dante is inadvertently giving Jens the operational runway he desperately needs to execute his master plan. Dante genuinely thinks he is managing the situation, controlling the flow of sensitive information to prevent a wider panic or to protect specific individuals from fallout. But control is a massive illusion here. Every single secret kept is a blind spot created, and in a deadly game involving a mastermind like Jen's, blind spots are exactly what get innocent people killed. Speaking of dangerous blind spots, we absolutely must talk about Sonny and his current trajectory. If you want a perfect textbook example of lethal hubris, look no further than his current strategy regarding his enemies. Rick, playing the rare and surprising voice of reason in this scenario, explicitly warns Sonny that Jens is a free man and a massive, unpredictable threat to everyone they care about. But Sonny, operating on decades of deeply ingrained mob boss conditioning, completely dismisses the complexity of the threat standing before him. Sonny reveals his intention to simply hunt Jens down and eliminate him permanently. It is the classic blunt force approach that has defined his entire life. Sonny believes that because he has always been the biggest, most dangerous predator in the concrete jungle, he can simply overpower any new threat that steps into his territory. He is completely blinded by his own mythos, forgetting that the landscape has fundamentally changed. This brute force, hyper-violent mentality is starkly and intentionally contrasted by Laura, who is currently preparing to make a desperate, unexpected plea for help. Laura deeply understands the immense gravity of the situation they are facing. She recognizes that they are dealing with a sophisticated international threat that absolutely cannot be solved by simply sending a guy with a gun into a dark alleyway. Laura is actively looking for smart alliances, for strategic leverage, and for a way to protect her family without losing her soul, while Sonny is just aggressively sharpening his knives in the dark. Sonny knows perfectly well that Laura would completely despise his lethal rogue plan, which is exactly why he is operating in the shadows behind her back. He is actively alienating his strongest, most loyal allies because he stubbornly refuses to adapt his outdated methods to a modern threat. But here is the terrifying, cold reality that Sonny is willfully ignoring right now. Jens is not a low-level street thug you can just corner in an alley and shoot. Jens is a master architect of psychological and physical chaos. While Sonny is marching around the city thinking he is the ultimate hunter, Jens has already built an inescapable cage. Jens is meticulously setting a complex, multi-layered revenge trap specifically designed for Sonny, Laura, Lucas, and anyone else who dared to cross his path in the past. Lucas, in particular, is an innocent variable caught in this crossfire, completely unaware of the sheer magnitude of the violence heading his way. There are even credible whispers that Jens might hire a highly trained professional hitman to execute a secret, devastating ambush on Sonny when he least expects it. Sonny is walking directly into a well-lit slaughterhouse, completely convinced he is the one holding the butcher knife. The sheer arrogance of his approach is astounding, and the impending fall is going to be catastrophic for everyone, including Lucas, standing in his immediate vicinity. Let us shift gears for a moment and look at the heartbreaking collateral damage of all these grand, violent schemes. Charlotte is absolutely breaking my heart right now. She is a young girl whose entire world has been violently shattered by the selfish choices of the adults around her. Valentine has fled the country to avoid indefinite imprisonment, leaving her behind to pick up the pieces. In a moment of pure, unadulterated grief and profound frustration, she tries to throw the precious mementos of her father into the lake. It is such a visceral, deeply painful reaction to witness. She is trying to physically purge the immense love she feels for him because that love currently hurts entirely too much to carry. She wants to erase the memory of the man who promised to always be there, only to vanish into the night when the walls finally closed in. The only grace note in this incredibly tragic symphony is Danny catching her and stepping up to offer genuine comfort. Danny being there for Charlotte is a beautiful, quiet moment of pure humanity amidst all the screaming chaos of the town. These two kids are carrying the heavy, toxic legacies of their respective families on their small shoulders. They deeply understand what it means to love people who constantly make dangerous, selfish, and destructive choices. Danny anchoring Charlotte in that specific moment of total despair is a profound reminder of what is actually at stake here. The adults are busy playing deadly war games, fighting over power, secrets, and bloody revenge, while their traumatized children are left standing alone by a cold lake, trying to decide if their memories are even worth keeping anymore. This is the vicious cycle of trauma playing out in real time before our eyes. Charlotte throwing away those mementos is her desperately rejecting the family curse, rejecting the constant, suffocating loop of abandonment and danger. But as we all know, you cannot simply throw away your history. It always washes back up on the shore. Valentine genuinely thought he was doing the right thing by leaving, sacrificed his own freedom to protect her from the legal fallout. But from Charlotte's perspective, it is just another massive broken promise. The emotional toll on this young girl is immense, and it perfectly highlights the sheer blinding selfishness of the adult conflicts currently dominating the narrative. Now, we have to talk about the most deeply disturbing and psychologically twisted dynamic currently playing out on our screens. Cassius and Nina. If we are talking about the dangerous illusion of normalcy, this specific relationship takes the absolute crown. Cassius is sitting there, literally wearing the face of a dead man, seamlessly playing the role of Nathan without missing a single beat. He actually has the unmitigated audacity to sit across from Nina and confide in her about his fabricated fears of negatively impacting young James. He is flawlessly playing the concerned, sensitive, deeply loving father figure, meticulously crafting this persona of a man who just wants to do the right thing by his reunited family. It is a terrifying masterclass in sociopathic psychological manipulation. And Nina, bless her deeply traumatized heart, swallows every single word of it completely. She looks at this imposter and enthusiastically reassures him, validating his fake emotions, telling him he is a wonderful, devoted father. She is pouring all her immense empathy, love, and hope into an absolute black hole. The dramatic irony dripping from the scene is absolutely suffocating to watch. Nina is tenderly comforting this dangerous imposter, completely and utterly oblivious to the horrific fact that Cassius knows exactly where Liesl is right now. While Nina is holding his hand and praising his impeccable moral character, Liesl is literally rotting in a cold, dark dungeon over at Windermere. Cassius is sitting there, casually eating a nice meal with Nina, while fully aware that her beloved aunt is a desperate hostage living in a waking nightmare. The sheer, calculated cruelty of this scenario is incredibly hard to overstate. It is not just a simple lie. It is a profound emotional violation. Cassius is actively weaponizing Nina's deep love for Nathan and her desperate desire for family harmony just to maintain his fragile cover. He is watching Nina genuinely worry about Liesl's sudden disappearance, and he just smiles and nods, offering fake, hollow comfort. When this horrifying truth finally comes to light, and it always inevitably does, the psychological devastation for Nina will be apocalyptic. She is not just going to lose Nathan all over again. She is going to realize she was actively comforting and praising the very monster who kept her family in chains. But I have to pause and ask myself, am I being too harsh on some of these characters? Let us look at the other side of the coin for a second, because the context matters. If we are being completely honest, sometimes the illusion is the only thing keeping these people alive. If Britt had not pretended everything was fine, Rocco might have panicked days ago, made a fatal mistake, and gotten them both captured by ruthless mercenaries. Her lie was born of fierce, maternal protection. And what about Dante? If Dante exposes his knowledge about Ross and Jens, he risks blowing up a massive international intelligence operation and putting a giant target directly on Elizabeth's back. Sometimes, holding on to a toxic secret is genuinely the lesser of two immense evils. We judge them harshly for lying, but in their shoes, facing those impossible, life or death choices, we might build the exact same house of cards just to survive the night. Maybe the absolute truth is a luxury that people in pure survival mode simply cannot afford. Valentine left Charlotte because the truth of him staying meant her watching him rot in a federal cell forever. Sonny operates with brutal, lethal force because, historically, hesitation has cost him the lives of his family members. They are all making rapid calculations based on decades of severe trauma. They lie because the truth is a loaded weapon that their enemies will gladly use against them. So, while I sit here and heavily criticize their deceptions, I also have to acknowledge the horrific crushing pressures forcing their hands. They are completely trapped in a ruthless system where honesty is often a fatal flaw. However, regardless of their complex justifications, the bill always comes due. The universe has a funny, often cruel way of demanding the truth, usually at the worst possible moment. Britt's failing physical body is the universe violently rejecting her illusion of control. Jens's meticulously planned, deadly ambush is the universe rejecting Sunny's illusion of invincibility. Joe's sharp investigative instincts are the universe slowly chipping away at Dante's massive wall of secrets. Everything is rapidly accelerating toward a massive, unavoidable collision. The professional hitman Jens might hire is just the initial spark. The real devastating explosion will happen when all these carefully constructed lies detonate simultaneously. We are standing on the very edge of a massive precipice, watching our favorite characters dance blindfolded near the fatal drop. The stakes have transcended mere physical survival. We are now talking about the survival of their souls, their sanity, and their fundamental ability to ever trust another human being again. When Rocco makes that desperate call, when Sunny walks into that dark, rigged alley, when Nina finally sees the terrifying monster hiding behind the familiar mask, the fallout will permanently reshape the entire landscape of this town. The traps are set, the players are moving into position, and the only certainty we have left is that nothing will ever be the same once the smoke clears. The real question is, when the illusions finally shatter completely, who will have enough pieces left to rebuild?
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.